A convict is plunged into an ocean of blood on a mysterious moon, where humanity hopes to find the answers to why all the stars and planets have mysteriously vanished. This is Iron Lung, based on a video game and turned into a movie by a YouTuber, so let's see how it turned out. Welcome everyone to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and joining me as always is David.
I come in peace.
Or Daviplier, as he is going to be called on today's episode.
Yep. I'm not a subsidiary of anybody you're thinking of. I have my own completely original work.
Yes. As a science fiction movie podcast, we get together to talk about a sci-fi movie. It's that simple. And today we're catching up on a movie that came out earlier this year, a low-budget movie by the name of Iron Lung, which is also based on a video game. And much like some movies that me and Tim have talked about over on streams this year, is made by someone known primarily as a YouTuber. They're having a hell of a year with the YouTubers making movies. Although, I made this distinction on streams because I think it's an important distinction, is the comparisons that keep getting brought up here, right? The two horror examples that we've done on streams, which is Obsession and Backrooms. Both of the directors in those cases made short films that just happened to be put on YouTube because it was a platform they could distribute them on and like show them off. I think that's a big difference from someone who is a YouTuber who does Let's Plays and makes YouTube content, which is what Markiplier is, who is the director, writer, and actor of this movie. So I think there's a pretty big distinction there, because, you know, directors used to always make short films before they graduated to feature films. That was pretty much the normal path of, ascension.
Right. I will say, I never watched them. I will say that back when YouTube Premium was YouTube Red, and they were experimenting with, like, you know, actual
communist YouTube
long content and stuff like that, Markiplier did have several longer form like film things, but it was in the vein of like he was playing the characters that came from his channel. You know, it was all still part of the branding of the channel instead of this own separate thing.
He did skits effectively,
pretty much, but
based on
a
his own
higher
stuff.
budget YouTube funded skits.
Yeah. Well, I say that because like people bring up, oh, YouTubers are doing this and that. I'm like, yeah, but most of the YouTubers are people who are just making short films and put them on YouTube. I don't quite see that as the same thing as someone who, you know, does typical YouTube content and then pivots into making a movie. You know, that's something very different.
This has come up a couple times whenever you and I start recording and we're just kind of browsing online for a little bit. Is I see a headline or something of like, Game of Thrones actor dead at age 60, whatever. I'm like, oh no, who was it? And it's like some guy who's an extra White Walker or something for like 5 seconds in one episode. And I'm like, saying Game of Thrones actor, while technically correct, feels like the wrong terminology here. You know, like it feels, you're technically right when we say YouTuber, in that someone who uploads to YouTube, but it feels wrong to say it that way.
Yeah. I mean, David Lynch uploaded to YouTube in his later years doing weather reports every day.
YouTuber David Lynch.
No one's calling him a YouTuber. It's like, oh, Mulholland Drive from YouTuber David Lynch. No one's saying that.
Oh god, that would piss so many people off, and I want to do it now.
So anyway, that preamble out of the way. Markiplier, or Mark Fischbach is his real name according to IMDb, but Markiplier, and he's credited mostly as Markiplier here, although I think in the actual long form credits it does say his full name, but most of the time it comes up saying Markiplier. You get the little flashy credits at one point, and that says Markiplier. Yeah, the titles, as they're called in the game. I couldn't remember if it was the beginning or the end. Like, I thought it was like either way, they're the titles. They're either opening titles or closing titles. Fair enough. So yeah, I mean, it's based on a video game that he played on his channel, because he does a lot of like indie horror games and stuff like that. I've never really seen much Markiplier. I've seen maybe the odd little bit of him here or there, but I did, after I watched the movie, I went to his playthrough of Iron Lung, mainly just because I wanted to see what the game looked like and like how similar it was going to be to the movie. And yeah, I mean, it looks like a late PS1 game, even though it's newer because it's an indie game, so it's got that kind of old school aesthetic to it. But yeah, it's a little, you know, submarine style ship with the same kind of control panel and the same camera mechanic, and we'll get into all this when we talk about the movie, but it is recognizable. You can sort of see what the game was. I sort of predicted how the game played from watching the movie, so I mean, it translated well in that sense. But yeah, but it is a sci-fi horror movie. It's set at it's a very high concept, post what they call the quiet rapture, where all the stars have disappeared from the sky. There's only a little bit of humanity left. The people who happen to be on space stations or spaceships, because all the planets have vanished or something. And it's all about sending this convict in a submarine type submersible into a river of blood on a random mysterious moon that exists to find stuff. That is the premise. And I haven't said it yet, so we will start spoiler free, as we always do. I'll give you a warning before we get into the spoilers. And if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, hit the like button. It helps out a bunch if you do. And of course, you can support everything over at Patreon and help keep stuff coming and get some bonuses. But I'll tell you about that more at the end of the episode. Seamless. Markiplier would be proud. So, yeah. So it's a $3 million budget, according to the interwebs. And basically, Markiplier's the guy behind it all. He directed, he wrote the script, he's produced it, and he's the star of it. So interesting from like a creation point of view, and sort of looking at it as this first time feature film and whatnot.
Well, I think what's even more impressive, because just to be more clear on relations here, is that I wouldn't say I was like a fan of Markiplier's, but I have watched substantially more things than you have. So like I'm aware of his content, I'm aware of his general gist, and when it came down to the release of this movie, it was something that I was following with some mild interest, just because of like the scale it sounded like they were trying to build this thing at. But the thing that got me was that this was absolutely going to be one of those movies that released like in the bare minimum number of theaters to be considered a theatrical release, like barely anything. But it was because of his audience, because of his already existing following, reaching out to theaters and basically demanding, hey, host this movie, like allow it to have a run, that allowed it to get as big as it did and have the pull, like the actual sort of money being drawn back into it here.
Yeah, what's interesting about that is that I found out about this movie because I got the trailer in my cinema. And obviously for it to be in a UK cinema being advertised, it must have already reached a point where they had decided to put it out. However limited it might have been, it probably had like one show in a day for 1 week and then it was gone or something like that. But it did make it to UK cinemas, which is very impressive. And it's funny because obviously, like, okay, raise $3 million, make a movie. That's all very impressive. But even before we get to, quality or anything like that, like it's quite a feat to do it in that independent level. The only thing that makes it sound not as impressive is the fact that the biggest horror hit of the year, Obsession, cost less than $1 million and was a mammoth hit and an instant classic. So it sadly has some tough competition to be compared against this year when it comes to the low budget YouTube to horror / sci-fi kind of pipeline. But
I mean, the fact is, it is still, especially with Obsession and Backrooms, that's the one.
Yes.
The fact that it is even in kind of the same conversation, I do feel like I hear those two individually, and then like occasionally Iron Lung is tacked onto it. But yeah, I mean, it is in the conversation.
It's a different league because like Backrooms literally opened to a great opening weekend and has made a couple of $100 million. Obsession's, I think, getting close to the $400 million mark worldwide. I think Iron Lung finished up about $50 million worldwide, which for the movie of its size is very good. Like, there is nothing to sneeze at, but it's nothing compared to these other mammoth hits that are breaking out and getting a lot of like mainstream buzz, and your average Joes are going to see it. I mean, for weeks after Obsession came out, I was seeing like just teenagers looking for, I was going to see like whatever movie we were doing that week, and like there was kids in front of me getting tickets to Obsession, and I'm like, this warms my heart. My dead horror-loving heart. It warms me. So
he saw a young father accompanying his 4-year-old child to go see Obsession. Says, that 4-year-old will grow up to be me one day.
Nah, you can't do that here. The whole R-rated thing where you can go on with an adult's not a thing here. You have to be...
Oh, it's not? All right, never mind.
Was that an 18? Maybe it was an 18. Yeah, maybe you had to be 18. It was either an 18 or a 15. But regardless, And there's none of this is to diminish the success of Iron Lung, because relative to the size of its movie, it actually is quite impressive how much it managed to spread, and the fact that I saw it be advertised in a international theater when it was a movie that was probably only going to play in like 2 LA theaters for one weekend in the original plan or whatever it was. So you know, credit where credit's due. But with all that said, though, let's just get into how we feel about the movie. So, David, what did you think of Iron Lung?
I overall think it's okay. And there's like 17 asterisks attached to the end of that. The biggest one for me is like, I found it difficult to come into this movie completely objectively, because again, it is something that I was kind of keeping up with in terms of how it was being produced. I saw the original playthrough, so I also had like a bit of the lore in the back of my mind the whole time. I knew the kind of things we were building up to, because as much as the video game is a video game, it is very linear as well. It is very much just a thing where you hit point A, point B, point C, and then the game ends. So it's a quick little ditty like that. But I found it hard to be objective and try to just judge the movie on its own. What I can say for certain is that there are probably 3 or 4 bits in this movie that are really, really good, high stylized, like they just feel like all the budget was used on these moments, and it just really works for me. I appreciate the full scale of those moments. Everything else reminds me it's over 2 hours long. And that's a problem. That is a major problem in this movie, because there is so much of this movie where I'm like, I get what we're doing. We're trying to establish the feeling of being stuck in this submarine, and like the claustrophobia and the time spent and the maddening nature of it. But it's 2 hours of like, I feel like the same things just happening over and over and over again. And while it may work for the tone, it doesn't work for the viewing experience. So I would say probably about 20 minutes of this movie collectively, I'd say is like really, really good. And the rest of it, I'm just kind of like, all right, well, I hope we get another one of those bits again.
Yeah, so interesting bit of disclosure here is we're recording this on a different day than we were supposed to, because when we were supposed to record this, I fell asleep halfway through the movie and slept all the way through our recording time until sometime after. And
I was sitting at my computer the whole time, twiddling my thumbs, just waiting.
And like, it's not all on the movie, because I definitely was a little bit sleep deprived, right? You know, like, it's not like entirely the movie's fault. But I go to watch the movie today, and because even though I saw about half the movie, 4 days ago, whatever it was, I still started from scratch again, because I was clearly pretty sleepy when I watched it. So I'm like, I'm going to start again. I'm going to give it the full attention, all the rest of it. And like 20 minutes in, my eyes started feeling heavy, and I'm like, no, this can't be happening. Because the truth is that I appreciate kind of the atmosphere it's going for. I appreciate some of the things that it's trying to do thematically and conceptually. But it is kind of repetitive and boring for large stretches. And yeah, the runtime's a big... Like, I honestly was shocked when I loaded this up and I saw it was like 2 hours and 6 minutes. I was like, wait, what? This is one person in a box. This screams 90 minutes tops. This screams this should be no longer than 90 minutes, because there's only so much you can do to keep that interesting. And yeah, there's stretches, and sadly a lot of those stretches are in the first half. So like the part where you're supposed to be trying to like get sucked into the story, I think that it tries to keep parts of its lore intentionally vague in a way that I actually think is a detriment to just understanding the core ideas of it, so you can actually start to think about the bigger, weirder stuff that it's trying to do. So I think that's a problem. So I guess the main complaint I would say is the script. The script is too long, it's too vague about certain things when it should not be vague. There's absolutely some things it should be mysterious about, but this is such a high concept thing, even from the get-go, that you need to get a baseline. You need to give the audience a baseline to latch onto so that we've got a building block to get to the weirder stuff later. But because you're trying to just figure out the basics for so much of the movie, by the time it starts doing weirder stuff, I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm just annoyed now. Like, I don't even want to try and like, you know, see you on this level. Like, you've lost me at this point. But there are nice moments. There's visuals. I think it's actually fairly well directed. So compliments to the first time director here. But he also wrote the script. And I also wonder if, like, as a first-time director, he just couldn't, like, cut certain things. He's like, no, I need to have all these quiet moments because I think they're all fantastic. And look at how good my acting is. And his acting's fine. Like, his acting's all right. Like, it's not, you know, you hear written, directed, acted, you think Tommy Wiseau. He's not Tommy Wiseau. He's not great, necessarily, but he's perfectly serviceable.
Okay. See, that's one of the things that I felt like I was not able to be objective about, but not in the vein that I think I was cutting him too much slack. It's in the vein that, like, I'm looking at him and I'm seeing the guy who screams too much at horror games, you know? So, like, I'm coming in this and I feel like I'm being overly harsh towards his acting, but then there are certain bits where I think he's doing a good job. But for the most part of the movie, especially when it's slower and, like, he's having those contemplative moments, I'm just sitting there like, this is the guy who, like, I've seen jump out of his chair because of a jump scare, you know? Like, I don't quite feel this quiet contemplation.
Yeah, but I mean, if you saw any excellent actor who you think's a 10 out of 10, if you saw them in their private life for like a few hours, you'd probably have the same thing where you're like, I've seen... I'll pick an actor. I've seen Matt Damon take a dump. How can I take him seriously in any movie ever again? Like, you know.
I'm gonna go ahead and hope I'm never in a situation where that has to happen. But yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. And yeah, it is just a thing of like the parasocial, like the idea of like seeing this person more openly than when they play a character. It's kind of hard to remove yourself from that. And it's absolutely that. But if you're saying that, you know, he did an okay job, I am inclined to agree on the most part.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think he's you know, fantastic or anything, but I think there's some moments where he does pretty good at, there's some moments where he's just okay at, but there's definitely worse performances in bigger movies, for sure. Like, it's perfectly serviceable, for what it is. And, you know, it is his baby, he raised the money and he's doing all the main jobs, so, like, yeah, sure, put yourself in the movie, whatever. But it's, I think some of the stuff is cool. The mechanic of, like, okay, the only way you can see outside is a camera that takes a still photo, and it's not a great photo because it's, you know, it's just like it's like a black and white style photo, and we're in a sea of blood, so it's not exactly the most clear thing ever. Like, the idea of that, but it's like, okay, you have to wait another 15-20 seconds to do it again, and then, something's moved since the last photo or something like that. Like, that stuff is good tension building. That works fairly well as a concept. I'm not saying that I think it always works in the way it's used in the movie, but I think on paper it is a very good idea. One of my problems I had in the first half of the movie, actually, is there's once or twice where he'll say to the person he's talking to, like in the comms, he'll start saying, there was something else, I saw something else, and I'm like, I saw that photo you just looked at, and I didn't see anything else, so I actually don't know what you're talking about. I'll take your word for it, there was something else there, but that's a visual problem where I'm not feeling what he's saying.
That was a problem I had with the gameplay as well when we went back to it. Like, when I was watching it, it was an issue of, clearly there's something. Like, whenever we're taking these pictures, clearly there is definitely something that doesn't belong, but it's hard for me to parse what it is I'm looking at in this grayscale, very low resolution kind of photos that's being taken there. Sometimes they make it very explicit, like they either up the res or get you like so close to it it's obvious as to what it is. But a lot of times I'm like, yeah, that's tubes or something. Moving on.
Yeah, enhance.
Yeah,
enhance.
Exactly. I had a similar thing with the mechanics. I appreciated the mechanics to it, but I also think that there's so many things where the mechanics were not used to their fullest.
Yeah, they could have done more with the mechanic for sure. Like, you could have built a lot more around this idea of him trying to map out like where he's moving around and making his map and all that stuff. Like, there was stuff to be done there.
Yeah, they specifically hang so much on this idea of how much oxygen he has and the fact that this camera, because he is in an ocean of blood, is not just a normal camera. It's like an X-ray sort of camera. And with that in mind, you would think that like, oh, maybe he's only able to take a limited amount of photos or something because it's such a power drain, because it has to use so much. No, never comes up. In fact, there's multiple times where he's just trying to take as many photos as humanly possible, because it is kind of just the light source for the cabin as well. So it's there for that sake.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's one sort of consequence which we'll get into a bit more in spoilers, but yeah, it's frustrating, because I also think that once it gets to some of its other stuff, one of my other frustrations is when it gets a little bit more like, oh, is he just seeing stuff in his head kind of part. While I appreciate some of the stuff that it's trying to tap into with that, which I won't even allude to for spoilers' sake,
right?
I do think a lot of it's actually a little bit lame. And the reason why I say that is because at a certain point, I'm just kind of like, okay, I've been waiting for you to do something interesting, movie, and your interesting thing is to start doing like, oh, the vision's getting out of focus and he's looking around all weird and he's maybe hearing something or seeing something. And, you know, those bits last a long time. I was, again, feeling the runtime. I'm like I could easily cut 30 minutes out of this movie. I could go on a chopping spree and get rid of a bunch of stuff. And one of the things that was frustrating is just because it felt like whatever else was happening in the movie, and again, I'm being very careful of spoilers here, it felt like there was no rules that it had to obey, and therefore all I could think was, well, why wasn't this happening in the first 5 minutes? Why is it wait until you know, now in the third act or whatever? And that's something that bothers me when there's anything that is like, usually in horror it's supernatural. You know, obviously we're dealing with sci-fi here, so you could argue if that's the right word in this case, but you know, anything like that where I'm like, well, there should be rules that it still has to follow, so that there's in theory a chance the character has you know, a hope of achieving a victory or getting away or whatever. But there's sometimes where they make the opposing force too powerful to the point where I'm just kind of like, well, why wasn't this just happening in the first 5 minutes? You know, it's a frustrating thing for me.
I gotcha. And I again, this is another one of those objective things for me where I was very conscious that the plot of the video game, it stripped down to the bare most essentials, is you are given a bunch of markers on a map. You got to go to those markers and take pictures of the things at the markers. And because of that, and because of how linear the game is, the rules are very easy to understand. Like, you keep track of your little levels of things, you keep track of your place on the map, and you try not to hit any walls as you're driving around this map. That's the whole gameplay loop, is you're just trying to keep the structural integrity intact while you get all these pictures. But the objectivity part with the movie is there were so many points when we started expanding out a little bit. Like, after we got through that first bit and we started expanding out with the ideas, I felt like I was bringing my knowledge of the game with me. And specifically the stuff with the coordinates and like having to go to those locations, I knew what it meant. I knew, like, okay, this is what he's doing this in part of the game. But as I was thinking about the movie, I couldn't think of a point where the movie explained what was happening. It felt like it was very just vague and like, just whatever down there, who cares?
Yeah, the goals for why he's down there are very vague. His backstory is very vague, and that's something they try to tease out in little breadcrumbs throughout the movie, and I think that was kind of a mistake. I think at the very least why he's in this box and why he's a convict should have been blatantly explained at the start. And one of the other problems is that whenever we actually stop to have a conversation, and it's straight up like, this is the thing, he's talking to, like, whenever he does talk to someone, it's over a comm system, right? Because he's on his own inside this box, pretty much. So every time, though, it seems like he stops what he's doing and has a conversation with the speaker, and it does like a reverse shot with the speaker, when he could literally be doing things. He could be doing the next parts and operating the controls and moving as he's talking to the person. We could be doing stuff while the exposition's happening, but the exposition is very tedious because they keep talking around things in a way just to keep the things vague, and it's frustrating, especially since the character is demanding answers for some things, not everything, because he knows a lot of things that we don't know as well to start with. But
this may sound a bit mean, but for me, especially knowing his YouTuber background, by the time we hit the end of this movie, I kind of felt like a lot of the movie was designed to have those 20-minute lore explaining videos, you know? Like something where we kept it so vague throughout the whole thing that you got to have somebody come in afterwards and say, here's what you may have missed in Iron Lung.
Well, the thing is, though, in a video game, it works this idea that you're sort of slowly uncovering things, and like you find a file here, a document there, and you actually get to sit and read it and think about what you're reading. It's very different in a movie where you're trying to just flash that up visually or to hear it maybe like read out in narration or something like that. It doesn't quite have the same mystique to it because you're not finding the things yourself. It's a different medium, right? It's not interactive. You're not actually seeking it out and piecing the puzzle together yourself. This character's piecing the puzzle together. So therefore, you have to make it engaging in a different way. And I think trying to make it as vague and as like divvied up in these little bits, I think the context of the characters and the world that they inhabit should not have been vague. That should have been very clear from the start. What's in the ocean can be a mystery, because that is mysterious. That should be a mystery.
Yeah, that's I get where you're coming from, and I understand, but for the sake of the audience, the quiet rapture, the methodologies to how it happened, what it means, all that's a mystery to the characters. And I think that's okay to keep as a mystery to the audience as well. But yeah, there's this idea that they seem to, and when I say they, I mean both the characters who have put him into this sub and then also Markiplier himself. They all seem to know something that we're just keeping away from the audience, probably for a good 45 minutes, really, until we really start getting into it.
Yeah. But no, there's other things they keep, though. It's not just, like, I'm not saying they should tell us why the quiet rapture. Obviously, that's a mystery. I'm saying they like, it's not even clear, like, okay, well, what happened afterwards then? What type of, like, okay, people in spaceships and space stations survived. We don't actually hear that until quite late in the movie, to be honest, either. But, like, okay, so, like, how long has it been? Like, how does society work right now? Like, they try and tease out these different things of factions, of groups and people and stuff like that, which, you know, we'll get into more in spoilers, but they try and allude to all these different things and, you know, like the simple idea of, like, what the main character Simon did to get him put here, which I don't want to spoil, but what he did to get him put here, like, that may have a lot more impact if they really emphasized how much of, like, a loss what he did was, right?
Right.
And I don't think they set that up at all. I don't think they emphasized that. I don't think they, like, paint this picture of what civilization is actually like now. And I think it'd have been very easy to do that, even if you, because honestly, the first warning sign I had in this entire movie was the opening, like, you know, spooky voice narration describing that, oh, in the future, the quiet rapture, this, and, you know, there's no stars in the sky, but there's moons, and at that moon, there's a river of blood, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, honestly, this is so fast and ominous, but without really properly explaining anything it's saying. Like, I didn't even know if I should take it as literal as he was saying it. It sounded almost like a prophecy or something like that, as opposed to...
It sounds like those movies that have, like, the opening and it's a quote from, like, Dante's Inferno or something.
So, honestly, like, maybe, like, a good old-fashioned, like, paragraph of text at the start, just giving you the basic context of what the world, or... I say world, we're not on a planet, obviously, but you know what I mean, like, what the universe here is like right now. Like, something simple as... After the mysterious event known as the Quiet Rapture, where planets and stars started disappearing, the only humans that were left are on a series of space stations and spaceships. So numbers are small, and struggle for survival and try to discover why all this happened is paramount. And blah, 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 blah. That leads us to our story. ... And we go. You know, it's just a basic setup of what the actual status quo is, so that when the characters start referencing things, they actually make sense, and we're not trying to piece together everything about the world lore as if everything's a mystery, because some of it is not a mystery to these characters, but the movie still dishes it out like it is. Yeah,
that's the part that we need to, like, it's fine to have, like, a dramatic irony to it, an idea that, like, okay, the characters know something but the audience does not, but then that's used as like a point, a big turning point where all of a sudden now the audience is let in on the secret and it changes how we view what previously
it changes the context. Nothing in this movie changes the context of the main character's plight. Nothing affects it in any way.
Yeah, and that's these things are dropped so casually that it does just kind of feel like, okay, why couldn't we have known that earlier beforehand?
Yeah.
I think also I was just clicking through the intro here because I remembered this movie did not have any production logos or anything at all, and it was baffling to me because like I can't remember the last time a movie came in swinging of just like second one go. But no, the other bit that was getting me is that, again, adapting a video game, there's certain things where you're dropped into the game and you do have to kind of figure out the mechanics on your own and stuff like that, especially in a horror game like this. The way the movie presents this is that there's a section of the movie that feels purposely confusing for the main character as well. Like he's dropped in as if he doesn't know anything. And then we allow for more exposition to happen, more setup, more full explanation as to what's happening. But I feel like that first bit is kind of just to what you're saying there. It doesn't feel like the world is fully fleshed out. Because if the main character, who ostensibly knows this is his punishment, he is a convict, he's committed a crime, and what he's doing here, he's been told what he has to do. Like him just being in here and being like, oh, what's all this stuff then? Kind of feels disingenuous.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of works in a video game to a point because if you start the game off like that, you are the main character and you're like, oh, I don't know why I'm here or what I'm doing here, but that's not exactly the case with this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's frustrating because there is definitely like visuals that are kind of nice, ideas and moments, like mechanics that could have went further and have a couple of bright spots as it is, but it does feel... it's kind of this weird feeling because like it feels like it's punching above its weight in terms of visuals and in terms of like directorial style, because it's like, oh, this is actually quite impressive for his first time go around. But in terms of script, in terms of pacing, in terms of world building, in terms of a satisfying narrative that leaves off in a good ending, nah, like that stuff is weak, and it's weak pretty much throughout, other than little moments where it's like, oh, here's where the potential was, and then it kind of shifts back into just being okay. Now, to be fair, it's not the worst thing ever. I'm not saying this is absolute trash. It feels very earnest. It feels like a genuine attempt was made. I just think that it does have all these problems from a script perspective that just leads to it being not that satisfying, I think, overall. I think that the overall ideas and the visuals are good enough that it's probably built a little bit of an audience, and it's probably going to have a cult audience forever. But I didn't... Sadly, I was feeling like it was a bit of a chore to get through the whole thing, if I'm being honest.
I wasn't going to say anything because, you know, as long as I have the movie done, I have the movie done. I was fighting against time to get this movie done for our original recording time because I just kept on feeling like I had to pause and like recollect and say like, what is going on right now? Like, what is actually happening? And it was... You fully fell asleep. If I were a little more sleep deprived and not working at the time as well, I probably would have been there with you, you know? Like, I would have been, like, able to just say, all right, this will get finished some other time and not finish it. But I do want to, same thing as you're saying, there are moments in this that come out of nowhere. It doesn't even feel like they're set up by anything. It doesn't feel like there's a ramping up portion to it. All of a sudden, the visual effects in this movie will just be fantastic. Like, it'll just happen. And then I'm like, oh, this is incredible. This is great. All right, let's continue with this. And then it lasts for maybe 30 seconds to a minute. It ends again, and then we're just done with it. Yeah.
Well, part of what you said there is the main problem, though, is that it doesn't feel like it ramps. It doesn't feel like one thing affects the next section. It just kind of feels that we have these sections as opposed to... And that's kind of going back to what I was saying about how it doesn't feel like some of the stuff that starts happening in the third act, like, why couldn't that have happened earlier? And part of the problem with that, it's not so much that could it have happened, it's more... There's nothing that inspires things to ramp up where, okay, I understand why maybe the opposing forces have decided to try or to start up in the ante now for one reason or the other. So it just kind of feels like, well, no, it happened this way because this is the order it needs to happen in a movie for it to ironically ramp up, but the movie's not feel like it has ramped up in the traditional sense. So
it's got it's got ratcheting stakes, but it doesn't feel like the stakes are building on each other. It's just separate stakes that happen to keep showing up.
So sadly, not what I'd recommend. I think it's probably, I mean, if you're interested in it, I wouldn't necessarily say don't watch it, but I think that it's not one that I'm recommending personally. So
no, I mean, you told me back when this was added to the schedule that this was kind of split between Screams or Ace, and we just had it ended up on Ace. It just seemed a bit more sci-fi than horror, and as it came on, I was excited to watch it. Like it was something that I had an interest in seeing already because again, I followed the stuff, so I wanted to see it. I checked it out, and I don't regret seeing it. I think that it was, as someone who was interested in it to begin with, I don't feel like I was given, like, you know, it doesn't feel like it was a complete letdown on every board, but it does feel just less than the potential it might have been if this were something that like was put in maybe a bit more competent hands with the writing especially.
Yeah. And honestly, even without rewriting much, just cutting out half an hour, I would be fascinated to see like a good attempt at editing this down to about 90 minutes just to see how much better it feels, and not even like entire sequences that need to go, but just tightening up so many scenes to just make them go in a bit quicker, just getting to that next point just a little bit faster, and not have him just sort of look around as there's like, oh, a little bit of blood dripped in, oh, again, oh, we did that for the fifth time, all right. So yeah. Yeah, but anyway, so as best we'll get to spoilers because we may get into things. So spoilers for Iron Lung from this point on, you have been warned. And there is almost no chance in hell we're going through this in order because I don't think I could possibly remember the sequence of a lot of the events.
Yeah, I do want to say, just straight off the bat, if we're in spoiler, I do just kind of want to jump to the big thing you kept saying of the thing that happened in the third act that felt like it should have been a constant thing. If I'm reading you correctly, it's the idea that the big bad monster thing that we find out is around has some level of telepathy / can speak into his mind or something.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's mechanically what I was talking about. I mean, it was basically just as soon as it started doing the thing where we spent like 10 minutes of him going, oh, I'm talking to a voice, but you're just in my head, I think. You're just in my head. Right. Oh, and he's looking around and the vision gets kind of foggy and blurry and shaky and we get those extreme close-ups and it's like... Because from that point on, it's just like, okay, I guess we just can't trust anything he's seeing is real at this point. And that was just frustrating. I wasn't excited by that. I was just annoyed because now I can't get into anything he's doing.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the one big departure from the game that I'd argue undermines the whole thing. Which is, in the game, the fear, the idea of it is that you are alone in this box. The quiet rapture represents the idea that everyone else is gone. Even if there are people there who put you into this submarine, the idea is everyone else is gone. And so the only thing you have are these noises that are clinking outside the sub. And that's what leads to the idea of this big monster that's out there, and the game ends with that. Does not have telepathy, does not have a voice, and there also is no ability to talk to other people. And that's what I think is something that is obviously necessary to an extent when it comes down to a movie. Like, you, even in the, I can't remember the name of it, was it just Buried? That movie about, I think it was Ryan Reynolds, just buried alive. Like, even in a movie like that, they had to give him a way to talk to people. Like, obviously that has to happen to some extent. But I feel like having so many voices and so many opportunities to talk to people is just immediately draining all the tension out of it.
Yeah, there's so many. He's got multiple people up top who talk to him. One of whom is Troy Baker, who's a very notable video game voice actor, so that stuck out. Alana Pierce also had a cameo at one point, apparently. I don't know what voice that was, but...
It's a familiar voice. I think that's supposed to be the one that represents his mom.
Oh, maybe. But yeah, you've got like so many different voices, mostly coming from up top, a couple coming from like other sources that may just be in his head or might be the monster talking to him telepathically. Because the whole thing, it's basically a Lovecraftian thing, right? It's basically this idea of this monster might even be responsible for the Quiet Rapture because he's consumed everything. We find out late in the movie that the ocean of blood is all human blood. And it's like, oh, is this all the people who disappeared, like, from the planets? They all just ended up in this pool of blood, and that's what
just
this
on this
is.
random moon out in space. Like, oops, so they all got teleported here, crushed into goo.
Right.
There is one conversation that happens end of the first act, somewhere in the second act, where the convict basically is, I think it's him talking to someone in his head, but he basically puts forward the idea of like, so many people believe the quiet rapture is the idea of like everyone else disappeared and we're all that's left. But wouldn't it make a hell of a lot more sense if all the stars disappeared, that we're the ones that got teleported? Like that we're the ones that disappeared?
Yeah, that all the stars are still there, all the planets are still there. We just moved somewhere else.
Yeah. And I as soon as I was like that, I'm like, oh, okay, is this what we're going to go into? This idea of like, we're not even sure what really happened. Like maybe that's the reveal at the end here, is like something is different from what we were presented as the core concept in the beginning. No.
Yeah, I like that musing that he had, and then it never really played into anything after that. And not that I expected answers by any stretch. I expected it to be very open because it just felt that type of mystery, and that's fine. But it almost felt like though that everything that happened after fundamentally said, no, it definitely isn't what he said there. It definitely isn't that. It's definitely something to do with everyone being swallowed by some cosmic entity that's a big squid or something in this ocean of blood. So, deal with that. So here's my thing, right? So it's like very vague about what he's down there to actually find. So go down there, take photos, and on his first little trip, he finds a skeleton of some kind. He sees he gets a photo of a skeleton. He goes back up. We get one little scene where we see another person's face. Yeah.
He gets a photo of a skeleton and theoretically something else in the background.
He freaks out about something else. And we actually get someone else's face for a second through the window, the porthole, whatever. We'll talk about more.
Captain lady.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that later. I'm saying this. I want to talk about something near the end.
Yeah.
Is he's sent back down to get a sample from this skeleton, and a bunch of stuff happens. A lot in the middle of the movie happens, and he ends up finding another submarine that's been destroyed. Right, the SMA, I think was the name of it on the side. And a lot of the plot around this part of the movie ends up being about, getting the information off the black box that was on this ship. And it becomes such a pivotal thing that the woman up top, Ava, who's giving them all these orders, makes a deal with them, blah, blah, blah. You have to get I'm going to give you the login details for the computer so you can download all this stuff off the black box onto your ship and then send it back up, blah, blah, blah. And even as everything's going to shit at the end, and he's clearly he's going to die doing this, and he's almost willing to accept that and send it back up. And the movie even ends in a shot of the black box data being put up on like a little life vest that's been sent up to the top of the surface of the blood river, or the blood ocean, I should say. And the entire time, when all this is happening, it's like, this is like the only hope for the future of humanity and our survival is getting the information that was on that submarine. And never once do we have any context for what this information might actually be, or what this other submarine was even doing down here in the first... I mean, obviously, it was researching stuff, but, like, there is never even a hint of, like, what's so important that's on there. Because Ava straight up says, like, this is the most important thing ever, is us getting this information. Like, she's talking about it like the Holy Grail's in this data. But we never even get a context. Like, even if she said something like, it's like the way we could start growing life, or like, turning a moon into a planet or something, like anything, even vaguely. No, it's just the magic MacGuffin that we want to save everyone's lives.
I think the most that they say is that whatever's on there is either information or literally the answer to what caused the quiet rapture. I think that they do say that at some point, but like, I guess I don't understand the urgency of it either, even if it's that. Like the idea of like, congratulations, you found an answer, you're all still gonna die. Like it doesn't feel like it's that big of a thing.
Yeah, and honestly, like part of the frustration about how vague they kept making this and how they kept talking around things, I'm like, you know what? Like, a society that's made up of just whatever space stations was left when everything else disappeared actually sounds more interesting than this ocean of blood, quite frankly. I want to know what the mechanics of that are, and how everyone's divvying up the supplies that they have based on what they had. Are you recycling your water? Are you doing this? How is society coping? That's actually quite interesting. So it's frustrating to me that even like the main character Simon, his thing is like, hey, you're a convict, you're down there because this is your punishment, and like you're kind of making good, and maybe you'll be free after this if you do all this stuff we tell you to do. It's like they talk around what he did for so long, and it's like half an hour out of the movie before anyone even mentions the filament station, and it's like, okay, what about the station? Oh, he's responsible for its destruction. Okay, I want more on that, because clearly if there's only like, you know, let's say 50 space stations that are left, and that's all that humanity has because there's no planets anymore, losing one's kind of a big deal, especially since how much of the population of what's left was on that space station. That also seems like a big deal. So that's the thing there that I would love to feel like a bit more fleshed out. But beyond that, it then starts to go into this thing where they keep calling this Eden piece of shit, and it kind of implies that he was part of like a rebellious faction called Eden who believed that we should give up because humanity's already dead or something like that. It was hard to parse exactly what that was, but clearly the people who are in charge here that have sent him down here are, no, we're trying to survive. We're trying to figure out ways if humanity can continue and like find resources and find answers. Whereas he was maybe part of a group that wants to just destroy everything because the last tree's gone and, you know, something.
So the way I was gathering it was Eden was just a different space station or something, and then the members of the Eden group, because they also do, I think it's only twice, little cutaways to show them being kids on the Eden station, which seems to have a tree on it, and then B, I guess the attack on Filament Station because everything's exploding around him. But yeah, the entirety of that stuff is left as this purposely vague, but then you just get these random throwaway lines where like he's like, hey, look, I'm sorry about the Filament Station, I wasn't involved in that. And then like later on he's like, okay, I was, you know, around for that, but I wasn't supporting it, I wasn't killing people, whatever, like that. And then like I feel like I get a full picture. I feel like I get a whole thing where it's like, okay, he was caught up just having to support his own home because, you know, you're conscripted to an army, you serve your nation, like that's how it is. And then they attacked this group, they lost against Filament Station, but caused heavy casualties, and now he's the one that's basically taking the full brunt of it, even though he may have objected, maybe he didn't actually do anything, whatever, like that. I'm fine with that image. I think that is a fine enough thing, and it even sets up this little medallion thing that he's got throughout that's reminding of a home because it's a little sprig from the tree. Like, all that I'm okay with. But then, I guess 2/3 into the movie, they do the reveal that this guy is known as Simon the Butcher because he's so relentlessly murderous. And I guess that's like something he's been trying to fight against, and he doesn't want that name. But then as he comes up against the big monster at the end, he's like, all right, you want the Butcher, here he is. And I'm like, this doesn't strike me with the dude who had a guilty conscience at all. Like, this is a totally separate thing we're doing now.
And honestly, like, it would have been more interesting if he was just, like, a believer on this other side the whole time, but it kind of feels like he's very neutral. You know, like, he was caught up in all of it, but, you know, at no point, as he's presented to us in the movie, does it feel like he actually had this strong belief about, like, ending what was left of humanity or ending, like, the way of life that, like, all the other people in the other stations were trying to promote. I mean, the symbolism of the tree is kind of something that comes out. I do actually really appreciate that when there's a crack on the window, and like he has to shut the the metal shutter on the outside to preserve
the
it.
Porthole.
Right. Two things there. One, the crack looks like a tree, which I thought was a nice touch. And two, the idea that it is actually about to just finally like completely break just as the metal doors like shutting, so there's just this little squirt of blood that hits them in the face as it's like closing. I thought, okay, that was a nice little touch. And then at the end, it seems like when the monster bites on the ship, the tree grows out of his little tree seed and his pendant.
So yeah, just to at a certain point somewhere in here, he's listening to audio logs, and then we find out that like the SM8 people, they went crazy. They started drinking the blood, and somehow that relates to the sea monster that's down there that has telepathic abilities. I don't know. I don't care to know. But we do discover somewhere in there that the blood has some sort of mutagenic properties. some amount of it messes with you if you get coated in it. It's a whole big thing. And so like halfway through the movie, we see he like undoes some bandages on his arms, and like there's like warts and some weird things happening there. But then in the end, as the blood is pouring in and the thing finally cracks down, the medallion is also cracked. And I guess the blood made the tree big, or it transformed him as part of the tree. I don't know.
Yeah, because obviously by the time this is happening, he's mutating and he's got boils all over his body, and it's like he's if he touches the ship, which is now covered in blood and like, you know, bits of like basically like viscera. Growth. Yeah. It's like his hand melds with it and becomes part of it, and he actually rips off his arm trying to pull his hand away. And it's like, okay, like clearly he swallowed some of the blood when he was trying to get the black box, or maybe it's just because he's coated in it. But either way, the reason why I thought he may have swallowed some is because they specifically pointed out that the people on the other ship actually started drinking it, and that's what started making things happen weird there. So I was thinking he maybe swallowed some by accident.
I also, I'm sure that would make things worse, and maybe that's what led to his little mental breakdown in the middle, but also the blood just on the walls is enough to cause this like growth like viscera growing. So I think it's just, as long as it touches, then that's the problem. Yeah.
Well, I mean, admittedly, it doesn't give us enough to really argue this one way or the other, but I would maybe suggest that just growing stuff on the wall is different on an inanimate object versus the biology of someone who is actually mutated, because the wall's not mutating, it's just getting covered in something.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels to me like this was made with the intention of, I'm gonna get so much free press from YouTubers doing a lore explaining video, you know? Like that's, I don't want to be that cynical, but it does feel like some things are kept that vague for that purpose.
Yeah, I don't think I'm that cynical about it. I think it's just a genuine attempt to be mysterious and like have like an allure, but I just don't think the script's like, I don't think he understood how to actually pull that off. I think he's like he's swinging for like, you know, I don't want to say David Lynch-esque stuff, but like he's swinging for something that isn't completely explained so that people can theorize and think about it. Not because he's thinking about the YouTube videos will be made, but just because he's thinking about movies that make people think that way and talk about movies that way. Right. And I just don't think it's actually good enough to make because most of the mysterious stuff that it tries to do is frustrating. And it's a shame because some of that early stuff where it's like, oh, we get a glimpse of something in the camera, or like the you know, like we see the eye of the monster at the window at one point. Like that stuff looks good, and it's like, oh yeah, this idea of this monster being out there and him trying to find his way, because at one point the monster like grabs the ship seemingly and throws him into like a part that's uncharted, so he has to keep taking photos to try and map out where he is and where he is in relation to the map that he had. So he starts drawing extra bits of map to sort of like extend it out.
That's the exact point where I was like, does anyone who doesn't know the original game understand what's happening right now? Because I got it, because that's like part of the game, is that you go into uncharted map sections and then you have to like figure out like what to do there. I didn't know if that made any sense to somebody who was not familiar.
I think once you've done a little bit of it and you start to see it forming on the paper, I think you get it. Maybe it's not immediately obvious, but I think once you see him act out a little, you get more of it, and it makes sense.
Okay.
So I think that stuff's fine. Although one of the things I want to talk about though is like how much of this is actually just in his head, because there's definitely a theory that a lot of it is, and one of the things that occurred to me. So one of the things that happens early on when he comes back up and he's seen the skeleton, and they're like, hey, we're sending you back down, and he's like, no, I've done my thing, like let me out now. And like, no, you need to go back down and get a sample, we're going to attach this thing, blah blah. And in his frustration that he's been sent back down, he takes a photograph. Now he doesn't do this maliciously, but he takes a photo when he's docked up top.
It's literally the only button he can press. It's like his only method of interacting with the outside. So of course he just smacks it.
And immediately Ava starts yelling at him, what did you just do? That's an X-ray camera. You just bathed us all in radiation, you asshole. And he's like, oh, and he feels guilty about it. He apologizes, and he brings it up a few times that he felt bad and he didn't mean to do that. But the thought had occurred to me, all those boils he was getting and stuff, Is this because every time he presses that camera, he's flooding the ship with that radiation? So he's actually just giving himself cancer like at an accelerated rate the entire time?
Yeah, there is a line in the movie, I think, when he's talking. I think it's Troy Baker at that point that he's talking to. And he's just like, hey, like, I saw what it happened to those people up there. Like, you guys are freaking out over that. Am I, like, also doomed? And I think Troy Baker's like, nah, the whole submarine is lead-lined and it's pointing away from you. So, like, you should be fine. But then I also was thinking the idea of, like, he's a convict that they have effectively welded in here and sent to die.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they just lie to him? Why wouldn't they just say, like, yeah, of course, you're absolutely going to get super cancer, whatever.
Also, I think his instructions actually do say at one point, use the camera sparingly, almost to suggest, like, hey, if you use it too much, it'll, you know, like, you want to, like, prolong how long you can keep using it. And, of course, there's the part in the middle where, because the rest of the power goes out, he just keeps hitting it for light. So
yeah, and that was the part where I was like, okay, this is... him taking this many pictures and using it in an unintended way is going to bounce back. It's going to have some consequence down the line. And the answer to that is he gets frustrated because his tape won't stick. That's the consequence. It just makes him slightly more pissed off.
Yeah, but like I say, if you read the ending as, no, he's not mutating, he's not like, this is not Lovecraftian monster stuff that's happening. He's just fallen apart because he's riddled with cancer because he's been dousing himself in radiation for, you know, repeatedly for about 2 days straight. Which, you know, like, I think if you want to read it that way, that's maybe interesting. Admittedly, I don't think the movie does enough to really make you stop and ponder it too much. It feels a little bit too literal with its monster stuff by the end, but you know. Yeah, and that's I guess I do just want to cover like the major bits of spectacle that I thought really did work as they're scattered throughout the movie. The first one, I can't remember what sets it up, but we see that he wakes up like in the ocean of blood. Like he's not in the submarine. He stands up. It's great visual effects. He does all that. It's very like a Stranger Things upside down-esque, sort of like red lightning and all that stuff going on. But as he turns around, you see this super massive like eyeball that's just staring him down. And then he jolts up and it's all just a nightmare or whatever. But like that was, you used the term Lovecraftian before. I was like, that felt very much in that vein. This idea of this creature that you cannot fathom in this world you cannot imagine is just watching you curiously, not like worried about you, just like, oh look, an ant. Well, until the ending when he's very worried because he's like, hey, don't send out that data, come join us, be part of the hive mind, you will be happy forever, like all these other voices that I can, because that seems to be the thing, is that once this creature's like consumed or killed someone, it can speak in their voice, and that's the like, oh, you were hearing that woman from the other ship earlier, that's because the creature was doing that in theory. So and I mean also, if this is the blood of everyone, then the hive mind represents the rest of humanity as well. So you have that in line. Next thing I believe in terms of the spectacle was once he gets attacked by whatever the monster is, he blacks out. When he comes to, that's when we start having all the in his head segment, and he's talking to this voice over the comm that theoretically is next to the SM8, and it's just like, oh, I saw this thing. There was this beautiful light, and it's the answer to all the Quiet Rapture stuff. And she gives the coordinates. And as he makes his way there, there's this plane of light that just slices through the submarine and starts like burning up everything that it's touching. And special effects wise, and also the direction there of how it was all put together, I thought was fantastic. See, I hate that moment though.
Really?
Because because it comes out of nowhere, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't think the ship's destroyed because we're not at the end of the movie yet. And it's just flashy with no context. I don't know. That was, to me, that's where I really started getting frustrated about all this stuff that was just happening in his head. For me, that was ruining anything I cared had left about the movie at that point.
Here's the thing. I think I was already done with the movie by that point, so I was just happy to have some thing happen visually. I
did not care how good it looked, because it did look fine, but I did not care. For me, it was just actively the wrong choice to make me give a shit about what was going on. Because of course he once again just kind of wakes up afterwards and is like, oh, of course this ship's fine. There's a cool visual where he sees like a a mutated like sort of man who's got like
That was
oysters
the third
all
one
over
I was
him.
going to bring up. Yeah.
And he turns around and it's super creepy. It's a very good visual. But again, I felt conflicted at this point because I'm like, and I know that part of Lovecraftian type stuff is that like the creature gets in your head and it's like this thing that starts messing with you and you go crazy. But to be honest, so much of this movie's been keeping things so close to the chest and so vague, and it's been treating regular world building as mystery, that starting to do stuff that's just happening in the character's head was just the furthest away from interesting to me. I was just like, okay, well now, like, there's no solid footing to stand on here, and now you're doing stuff that we can't even trust what we're seeing. So I was just getting annoyed at them doing these wacky visuals. As good as they might be from a technical standpoint of how good the effects looked, like, I don't know, like, this was where I was just bottoming out.
I mean, that's fair. I did find the moment in the movie, and this was, it's about like 40 minutes to the end where all this is happening. And it is basically just one after another. Like, they all just filter right into each other. And I think that's kind of why I was a bit more like, oh, okay, this could be something. Because it was so consistently, like, the plane of light things happen, he wakes up in the ocean, and then you see, like, the burnt up mutated man or whatever. And all that stuff back to back, I'm like, oh, we're moving into this final bit where maybe it is just going to be all in his head and it's all going to be mental stuff or whatever, but at least it'll have, like, this super awesome visual flair, and, like, we're going to continue down this, like, super visually interesting section. But then he wakes up and it turns out it's been a few days and they're like, how the hell are you still alive? And we never get an explanation for that, but they just are like, yeah, all right, well, you found that submarine, get the stuff off of it and we'll move into the third act. Yeah,
creature did it, I guess. And, you know, it could be more compelling if this idea of, like, him having to make this choice of whether or not to, like, because it's like, okay, she makes a deal with him. It's like, hey, that stuff on that ship's really important, so I will make a point of rescuing you if you get that information, right? But, like, the end of the movie, he has to decide, is he going to risk everything, even though he's going to die, to send this stuff up to the surface? I feel like a better context of what this decision is, of how important this information actually is, and then how that actually pays off his arc, if he indeed has an arc, right? This idea that, oh, maybe by choosing this, he's actually completely going against everything he believed in before because his experiences down here and the guilt have changed him. But I never really felt like it was paying off any of that. It just kind of felt like he was giving a middle finger to the monster at the end, more than anything.
I disagree. I think the arc is not complex. It's not something that is a very deep one, but obviously the beginning of this is the idea that...
Well, for the record there, I was not saying what the arc was there. I was trying to theorize how to give him a better arc.
Oh, yeah. No, but I'm saying it does feel like it completes his arc in what's presented, in that the beginning of the movie does present it as very, not controversial, what's the word I'm looking for? Adversarial. It's very adversarial between the people who put him in there and him in there, where he's like, let me out, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do any of that. And they keep on insisting that this is for, like, the good of everyone. This is, like, for the benefit of humanity, while also being a punishment for him. He's going to be helping everyone.
Can I just say, though, like, that being the constant reason this is for the good of everyone, you have to add something to that. It's so vague. It's so nebulous. They never add any weight to it whatsoever, so that by the end, when he is sacrificing himself, or at the very least, like, he was going to die anyway, I suppose, but, like, he is using his final moments to fight back, to make sure this information, whatever it is, gets up there. Even at that point, at the very end of the movie, even when it shows that he succeeded because it's floating at the top, we still don't understand how this actually helps anyone, or if we can even trust the people who are telling him that this is important, because we don't really know.
Yeah. I will say, I have up the video games wiki page.
Oh,
and I'll just read this last paragraph here. Post-game text entry reveals that there is no current method of retrieving the remains of the Iron Lung or the photographs taken by the player, meaning their mission was ultimately in vain. So, like, obviously it's different when you adapt to the movie, you change up some of the morals and stuff like that, but, like, yeah, even the game was like, all right, SM-13 failed. Load up SM-14. Let's get the next one down there. Maybe that one will work out better.
That's frustrating. Like, I mean, at least, I don't know. Like, I think that can work depending on how the story plays out. But I think in the context of the way this movie's presented, I'm just like, oh, what a big waste of time. Like nothing was achieved. I don't feel, because again, like I because they were doing those little flashbacks though, here he is as a kid and there's like a cult leader talking to him about the tree and this is what Eden is. I'm like, oh, we're going to like get a bit more of an understanding of like him feeling maybe indoctrinated into this group, or maybe him like, you know, what his, but all we ever really get is him yelling, oh, I tried to stop them but they wouldn't listen to me, I didn't mean it.
I thought it was going to be something going down the lines of like, not only is he viewed as a villain by the Filament, I'm assuming that's this group as well, or at least they represent the idea of Filament.
Well, I don't think it's, I never got Filament as like the group. I thought that like Filament was just one of the stations that make up most of the community, and then Eden Group is an extremist group that's separate from everyone else.
All right, fair enough. Regardless, our antagonists, the people outside the sub, they view him as a villain because of what he did. And then because it didn't sound like he was going with his own group, that he was choosing not to attack when Eden was doing the rest. And I think they all died, and he was the only one that was left alive to be punished. He also not only has survivor's guilt on that side, but also is probably viewed as the villain from his own group as well. So I was getting the vibe that we were going to go down this whole idea of like, the whole world's against you. You do have nothing to live for. What do you find to live for? And maybe you can make the argument, the idea of like the continuation of humanity. He's finally convinced in the end, or just the middle finger to this giant monster thing, because why not? But it doesn't feel as deep as it could have been.
I mean, they could have went for the angle where, okay, he was indoctrinated into this group and this monster's now trying to indoctrinate him into like his hive mind or whatever you want to call it. And he's learned not to fall for that again. Like, you could have done something there with that. I don't think the movie actually achieves that, if that's what they were going for. So.
And I will also say, there is a chance that what's in his head / talking to that other voice, the SM8 voice, and whatever audio recordings, because the black box, we do see that he gets a bunch of photos out of that. It's possible that the voice is saying exactly what is so special about what needs to be retrieved, but it's masked in this flowery, poetic sort of like, oh, I saw the light and this and that and the other stuff, that it feels like it's purposely being obtuse in whatever it is that's important here.
Yeah, and I can't really emphasize enough that his character, like, none of this stuff that at the end, like, all these big visuals happen, but none of it has any weight because nothing's well enough defined with him that I understand why it's important for his character arc that any of this stuff is happening to him at the end. It just doesn't feel like it's earned any of that. And that's why it feels like just a bunch of stuff happening. It doesn't feel like there's, like, because you can either have it all making sense from like a rules perspective, because you've set up, okay, this is the rules of surviving down here, and the ways that you may be able to get around the monster if the monster has a weakness, or the monster only gets involved for this or that. Or you have everything be a bit looser in that sense, but everything thematically relates to the character in a way that it feels fulfilling, because okay, this represents the idea of him making this choice or getting over this, or him finally making this decision, or anything like that. But neither of those things feel true, so everything just feels like, oh, stuff's happening. Stuff's happening because we wanted to do this fancy scene with the blood, we wanted to do this fancy scene with the fungus looking dude, or we wanted to do this scene where he hears this voice and gets confused and passes out, or whatever. In the final fight scene, again, we throw in this Simon the Butcher thing, which I feel like just came out of absolutely nowhere. It doesn't fit with the character that was established at the beginning of the movie. But in terms of choice that he makes at the end, his choice is, I'm going to save the black box and I'm going to fight. Sure, he saves the black box, it gets out on the life thing, but when it comes down to the fight, I don't even want to call it triumphant moment, because it doesn't even feel like that, is he manages to break off one of the teeth that has punctured the sub. Like, there's probably about 10 teeth in total that we see, and he manages to break one. And the whole thing pauses, and the monster gets super pissed, and it crushes the sub entirely, which leads to the final ending. But, like, I don't even feel like that was that big of a moment that he managed to chip a tooth, you know? No, and if they try to go for, like, he's willing to fight even though he knows he's not going to live, right? But he's willing to give it his all anyway. that feels a bit murky to me, given that his goal the entire time was to live. It's not like he went into this thinking, oh, I'm not going to get out, but I don't care, like I'm ready to die, and then by the end he's willing to fight and do something with his final minutes. Like, so that's not there as an arc either. Like, I don't know, it's missing something with the character.
Live for selfish reasons, and then changing it to willing to die for selfless reasons, which it is an arc. It does qualify as an arc
in theory, but like I need to know more about what these selfless reasons are for, because I don't understand this world that he's given himself up for.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think honestly, it may have had a problem where the stakes felt too high. Like, I think having them say whatever's in this black box is going to change everything and all that stuff may have been a bit too much. Maybe just specifically making it like, oh, that's SM8's black box. Like, the last call we got from them said they found something big or something like that. It doesn't even need to be the promise of everything will change, it's all like worth it or whatever. It could just be this small thing of like, we've got a little bit more information and that's it. That's all we got. Or maybe it would be something about this creature under the ocean that is attacking them. Maybe it's a weakness in that front. But then you got the whole problem of they don't seem to know that there was a creature to begin with. Every time that Mark tried to talk to them and be like, hey, I saw something, they're like, you're crazy. No, there's nothing down there.
Which could just be them lying to him, I suppose, because they're lying enough about other things, but...
Yeah, but they also were willing to bring him up specifically of saying, hey, we want some samples from that skeleton you found, because it's crazy that there's a skeleton down there. Yeah,
which actually begs the question in hindsight, what is the skeleton? Because, like, is it supposed to be another one of these creatures that has a skeleton? Like, so what killed it?
The Ice Age. I got nothing for you.
Like, is it maybe something else that's been absorbed out of the blood, and that which is it like a big alien creature from another planet that's already been killed by this beast? Like, what are we talking about here?
I don't know. I mean, maybe they could have done a reveal or something of like, oh, we looked at those photos or something, and it perfectly matches like a blue whale skeleton, and it's like, what would a blue whale be doing on this moon? And then that leads into the idea that everything just got teleported here, like all the stuff from Earth, and that's what all the blood is.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's a shame, because on paper I like the general, the claustrophobic setting. I like the idea of it being a one-person show. I like the idea of the ocean of blood and some of the idea of there being a monster down here kind of thing. I almost think, like, either we need to know more about the world that he left behind, or have it be even like we shouldn't even know about the Quiet Rapture. It should be almost like Cube, where we just know nothing. He wakes up in this thing and he's left like a folder of instructions, and it's all just about him finding this monster and trying to survive and seeing if he can get out. And all the stuff with the world building they try to tack on top of it, if anything, is just frustrating, because it's not good enough to actually, be fulfilling in its own.
I mean, I don't know. I like the Quiet Rapture stuff in concept. What gets me is how many other players there are in this. I think I would much rather you tune it down to him and maybe like a computer that like can answer basic ass questions.
Yeah,
like, I'm not even saying an AI.
Yeah, I don't dislike the Quiet Rapture stuff. I'm just saying that based on the movie we're actually given, I almost just wonder if a Cube-like approach of, no, he's woken up here, he doesn't really know why he's here, but maybe there's just a couple of small, subtle hints that maybe can make you theorize about what the world is up top, but we don't actually go into it too much. Now, obviously, the Quiet Rapture stuff's in the game, so obviously we're going to put it in the movie. I'm just... analyzing it based on what I see, where I'm like, I could see it working better. If you're going to be that vague anyway, then be ultra vague about it. Like, be so vague that it is just him in this ocean of blood, he encounters a monster, how do I deal with that? And that's the movie. Like, that's the premise of the movie.
I mean, for me, it comes down to, I like the elements that were brought over from the game. I think all the information that is provided in this movie about the Quiet Rapture is available in the game, but the problem being is it's done through text files that the player can explore at their leisure. It's not something that is done easily in a movie context.
I am not arguing against any of that. I'm simply saying that based on what the movie actually is, it might have functioned better with even less. Because the lore that it suggests isn't bad. It's just not told in a compelling way, and it's danced around for too long. And if anything, it just needs a bit more to actually make me care about what these stakes are towards the end with this black box, because it's so goddamn vague that I'm like, okay, what possible information could be on there that's going to save the future of humanity?
Well, that's the pivot. That's where I think, like, what I was building up to is, you're saying it might have done well with less. I think it should have not strayed so far from the source material. I think that's my biggest problem with it, is that the whole tension of the game, the thing that made it work, is not only the isolation, but the idea that you're down there specifically as a fact-finding mission. Like, they don't know what's down here, everyone else has died, and you're just shoved in this sub because it's a punishment for you. And so you go to the places on the map, you take the pictures, and by the time you hit the end, you come across the monster and it kills you. You fluff that up a little bit for the sake of, like, telling a cohesive plot, obviously, but I think adding in this extra stuff of the solution to the quiet rapture, or like whatever that black box is supposed to be, that just needs to go entirely.
Actually, do you know what I would cut easily? This entire whole Eden thing, he destroyed a space station. Just say he's a convict and just hint that he has guilt over bad things that he's done, and leave it at that. But every time, they start talking about, after what you did, and then they start bringing up the station, like, make it more just generally, no, he just killed someone or something. It's that. It's a simple crime. Yeah. He's down here.
But, like, with this many people, like, obviously all crimes are going to be treated extremely harshly.
Yeah. I don't know. There's just, it added this extra layer of, like, okay, so he was in a weird cult called Eden or something, blah blah blah, and it's this extra layer to add on top of everything else, which is also not fleshed out. So it somehow managed to be in between, like, too much so that it doesn't have the complete mystique to be completely open, but it's also not enough to feel fleshed out and feel like we've actually got a proper world building. And so it's in this frustrating middle ground where, like, do you want to actually tell us about your lore or do you not? Because it feels like you can't decide. Yeah.
That, and do something more cool with the photos. I felt like that was severely underplayed for how critical it was for everything going on.
Yeah, I thought there was going to be, more about the mapping and more about, I don't know, like maybe finding something like the idea that he found one other submarine that was destroyed and that ended up being the linchpin to everything else in the rest of the movie was weird. I thought it was like, okay, we've found that. What else is he going to find? Oh, okay, he's not moving anywhere. Okay, fine.
Right, and that's the sort of thing where, like, I'm sure somewhere in the game there was an old submarine, and he's just like, oh, of course I'm not the first mission down here. But it wasn't like the big thing. It wasn't the thing that was the linchpin to the game. It was just more of a character thing of like, yeah, you're gonna die down here. All the other people have died. You're gonna die too.
Yeah, and further, I'm not even, like, I have not once compared it to the game because I don't care. I don't give a shit that it's an adaptation. I'm talking purely as what it is as a movie, and that's it.
I mean, the only reason I bring it up in the game, obviously you have to make differences when you do the adaptation. I'm not arguing that it needs to be 1-to-1, everything is the same as the game. But there is something narratively enticing from the game that I think was lost upon adaptation. And it didn't feel like it replaced it with its own thing. It just feels like we lost whatever there was, and then it became whatever this is without that sort of extra enticement to it.
Yeah, I just... Yeah, it's just not a good script. I mean, ultimately, that's what it comes down to. We've sort of just talked around that the entire time. Is like, it doesn't develop the character enough. It doesn't have enough of an arc. It doesn't have thematic resonance when all the weird stuff starts happening. And I'm sure people who dig into it will find something, right? They'll say, oh, this is why this bit happens at the end because it's paying off this or whatever. But none of it was feeling like it was landing on a first time viewing, and it's not good enough to watch it a second time for me to go looking for something that I missed. It's simply just not compelling enough for that. In fact, it's actively kind of boring in places and a bit of a chore to sit through, and made me fall asleep. So like, if it feels, because normally movies that get away with the vague mystique and all that tend to be so riveting through style alone that you're drawn in on that, and then you have fun with the kind of theorizing and the vague sort of things that it's implying. But this doesn't have that. This has me feeling bored. So then when it starts doing the vague stuff, I'm rolling my eyes and going, "Oh, screw you, movie! You think you've got the clout to do this, to pull this move, but you do not."
You know what? And I sorry to tangent so hard here, but you know what movie I think I wanted this to be in terms of structure and like the storyline we're going through?
Mm-hmm.
Submarine version of Wages of Fear. Because that's the gameplay loop. The gameplay loop is you are in this rickety ass sub, dropped onto this alien planet. You are forced to map it. And the idea is that if you bump up against too many walls or you take too long, the oxygen will go out or the hull will breach. Like, that's the stuff. That tension is so interesting to me, and it's something that like anybody would be able to sit there, ask glued to the chair and be like, oh god, like if he doesn't manage to pull this out. And then on top of that, the thing that this would offer that Wages of Fear couldn't is you have an actively antagonistic force to be able to come in and be like, oh, this thing wants you dead. What are you going to do about that?
Yeah, it's just a bit unfair to say hey be as good as one of the best movies ever made. Yeah. Honestly, and this is going to get a lot of flack, this suggestion, I think, but dare I suggest that maybe just, as much as I like this part of it as it is, maybe for the sake of a movie, having two characters in the sub might have been better. And I know it changes a lot, but I'm just thinking about if you have two characters who can bounce off of each other, who have different opinions about what to do, who are reacting to the monster differently. Now, admittedly, it's less about the isolation at that point and more about kind of like their opposing views and whatnot. It does change things dramatically, I will admit. But there is something about a video game where it works being just you, because it's just you and you're controlling the character and you're discovering things through reading it. Having two characters in a movie, though, means they can talk to each other. So when something weird happens, the other one can say, well, I think this. Well, no, I think that, or so on and so on, whatever it may be.
Right. No, I got you. As much as you might get flack for that, I'm sure I'll get flack from you for this, but I'll throw it out anyway.
Go on.
If we not open, but, within 5-10 minutes, we introduce the idea of there is another character there, but explicitly up front, it is in his head. It is a representation of guilt. It is a thing where it is someone he can talk to so that we can have dialogue, but it is not another person so that we can still preserve a level of isolation.
It depends entirely on the execution, because there is a fine line there where it could work, where, like, it's a mechanical device so we can have talking, but it's also a trope that is overdone, and it might also just kind of add into some of the things that was annoying me in this movie later on, where some of the stuff that happened in his head just started to feel frustrating. I will say this, though, if they tried to not tell us that and then pulled it as a twist later on, it would have been infuriating.
Absolutely. That's why I said up front, within the first 10 minutes. I don't want this thing where it's like, oh, he wasn't real the whole time.
I think that would be infuriating if they tried to pull that. And that's the thing, when it starts doing the more kind of Lovecraftian, like in his head stuff, as much as that makes sense, if you're doing something Lovecraftian, it's probably where I was getting the most frustrated, because it didn't, like, I don't know, part of it's just...
It felt so repetition as well during that first bit, like when he's knocked out before he comes back several days later, because like he's talking to it at least twice. He says, "You're all in my head. You're not real." Da da da. And then they have the balls to do the reveal that like the wire's been cut the whole time. Yeah, and it's like, but he's already in your head.
But then they do a double back on that where he's talking to Ava, and then he checks the wire and it's fixed. So it's like
that's because that entire thing there was all just a quote unquote hallucination.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it happened, maybe it didn't.
But it's like they do like a double reveal. It's like, oh, they revealed the wire's cut. Oh, so this is just a voice in his head. Oh, I hear a voice. You must be fake. Oh, no, the wire's not cut. Oh, I guess maybe you're real. I'm like, God damn it, movie. This is annoying. It's not interesting or exciting or mysterious. It's just annoying.
Yeah. That's the point where there was a certain pivot point somewhere in this movie where I realized we've had more shots of this intercom speaker than we have the control panel, which felt so wrong to me knowing the original game, where like that's the thing you're looking at the whole time. And I would argue we had more shots of the intercom speaker than we did the photos as well, which that should be the number one thing. That should be the thing we're most interested in.
Yeah, it would never. Yeah, they were never going to show the control panel that much. What are you going to do with that in a movie?
I don't know. Again, if we get my Wages of Fear suggestion, that's the sort of thing where you got to be like pinpoint precision on angle to make through this gap or something.
Yeah, I think that you try to think too much about making it like the game. I don't think that's the key thing here, because I like the fact that this was a game is almost like a trivia point to me, because I had never heard of the game. I saw the trailer. I knew watching it was based on a game, but I had never seen what the game looked like. I only looked up what it looked like after the fact, just out of curiosity to see how similar it was. So I'm not like, I can see how some of the mystery works better as a video game, but fundamentally, like I don't think trying to be more like the game is the answer to any of this movie's problems.
Oh no, this movie, like, again, I'm operating off the assumption of ground up, let's start from the beginning again, and like how I would do it differently. But for the movie we're presented, no, absolutely, this is just a fundamental problem with the script writing and the issue of trying to get that tone down and stripping out all those unnecessary bits. Yeah.
So too long, script not good. There you go. That's the short review.
Spent an hour and a half doing that. Great job.
There you go. All right, David. Let's rate Iron Lung out of 10.
I don't wanna, because I feel like I'm gonna piss off somebody who's just fast forwarding to this point to see what the rating is.
Hey, if it makes you feel better, right? The rating on IMDb is only a 5.8, which I don't think is too far off the mark, actually. It feels like, for as much as Markiplier has a following, I think a lot of non-Markiplier fans have also seen the movie and have balanced things out.
Yeah. I'm just looking, because we've had a lot of movies recently that are like in that 5 to 6 range. Like a lot of the previous movies we've done have been that. And I'm just trying to sort out where it feels like this goes. I'm between a 5.5 and a 6. And I feel like that is a gulf. Like there is a massive difference to the fineness that is 6 and then the utter desperation that is a 5.5.
Yeah. All 18 holes or just the 9?
I'll be honest, I forgot what I was setting you up for there. What am I doing?
He said there's a gulf, and I was making a golf joke.
Gotcha. No, an expanse, an abyss, a Gulf of America. God, I'm gonna say 6. It's I'm looking specifically at Enemy Mine, the last movie we did. And I'm seeing that, and then I'm looking at the 5.5s that we gave back with like Omni Loop and Tron or Disclosure Day, and I think it's better than that. Not by a lot, but it's better than that. So I'm gonna say a 6.
I can't go as high as a 6.
I know.
Yeah,
I feel weird saying it, but like I can't. It just seems right to me.
I'm wrestling with a 5 and a 4.5, and I'm thinking I'll probably give it the 5 because I am impressed with the technical merits. I think it looks good, it sounds good, the effects when they're needed are good. It feels like it's really punching above its weight in all of those categories, but the script just and the pacing that comes along with that just lets it down immensely. So I think I'll give it the 5. For its technical merits, I'm impressed with what he was able to pull off, but that's the ceiling for me. So 5 out of 10.
No, that's fine. That's fair.
So there you go. That is Iron Lung, and I can tell you what's coming next time on the Atomic Cinema Experiment. And we're doing something very different. We are doing About Time, which is a time travel movie, but also more of a romantic comedy style time travel movie.
Sure, man. Why we could branch out a little bit, do something weird.
Yeah. So that's what's coming next week on the Ace. And of course, if you want to support the show, you can do that over at Patreon, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. That helps out a bunch if you do that, and get some bonus stuff like the ratings rundown segments we do for each episode. And every month, me and David do a bonus show called Extra Reels, where we review some of the worst movies of all time. And we also have another movie show that we do weekly called The Collector's Cut, which is not a Patreon thing. That's just another show you can get either on YouTube or on the Collector's Cut audio podcast feed, if that's what you like. We're doing submarine season right now, which thematically ties into this movie, Iron Lung, quite a bit, actually. So that's neat.
Perfect.
So yeah, we do seasons over there, maybe based on a director, based on a theme, like submarines, or based on like a franchise or whatever. But yeah, there's 180 episodes of that thing now, so you can go check out a whole back catalogue. So fun. But just before we actually say goodbye, though, David, of course, has his homework movie. Every week he goes back and watches a movie from before he joined the show, so he can eventually be caught up. So what was this week's homework movie?
So once I was done with Iron Lung, I was looking for something in kind of the same vein, and I saw a particularly negative
Steel
IMDb
Kidney.
review. Yes.
Bronze Heart.
Copper Liver. No, I saw a particularly brutal review that said Iron Lung makes blank look like 2001: A Space Odyssey. And the blank movie was Event Horizon.
Okay, here's the thing with Event Horizon. Some people love Event Horizon,
Right.
and I was very vocal on our review when we recorded it that I still think it's a piece of shit, and it's still a Paul W.S. Anderson movie. So I am fascinated to see if you're one of these defenders.
It was really, really hard watching it after Iron Lung and being disappointed. Because just plot wise, there's a lot of comparisons. There's a lot of things that are strangely similar between the two plots. So, like, yes, I do think Event Horizon has maybe a bit more fleshed out story. Maybe it has a bit more production value to it. Feels a little bit bigger in scale. It's got some actual like big name actors in there, including Sam Neill, rest in peace. But as the movie progressed, I found myself hating more of it. Like, it started with an okay idea and then just kept ticking away and doing the dumbest possible things at any point. To which there is a character who, it's not even like it's almost a bait and switch, but they literally never even hint at it. You think he dies at one point, but like immediately they show he's fine. I swear to God that at a certain point in that movie, every line from him thereafter is 80 yard. Like, it just feels like it gets cheap and weird, and by the time it hits the end, I'm just not having a good time. So overall, I think I preferred Iron Lung to Event Horizon.
Oh.
And because of that, I think I got to give Event Horizon, I'd say like a 4.5. It has its elements that are at least like interesting looking. I'll give it that. But by the time we hit the end of the movie, I think it throws away all goodwill that's built up by the beginning and just like takes this honestly somewhat interesting setup of a plot and all the mystery with it, flushes it down the toilet, and then just does something completely stupid instead.
Yeah, pretty sure I think I like Iron Lung more than Event Horizon as well.
Yeah. So there you go. I don't understand your review, Mr. IMDb guy, because that movie still just sucks.
No, people do love it. People swear by it. People say it's the one actually good Paul W.S. Anderson movie, and I say that does not exist.
Nope, doesn't seem like it.
Like, I can watch the first Mortal Kombat, but it's still not a good movie. Like, it's schlock, but it's better than this other crap. Anyway.
I mean, you definitely, like, love the Resident Evil movies, so there's always that you can go back to.
Piss off. God, that franchise is so bad. We've reviewed 5 out of the 6 of them so far on Screams. The 6th one will be coming very soon because we need to get it out the way before the new movie comes out. So
okay. And then you'll be doing Monster Hunter, I assume, right?
No. No.
Is that technically sci-fi? Would that fall under our bracket?
More fantasy, so I think we're safe. I think we're safe. And Event Horizon was already done, so you're safe from that. Other than having to do for homework.
I had to watch it, so yeah.
All right, there you go, everyone. That is the show. That has been the Atomic Cinema Experiment. Thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it. And of course, let us know what you thought of the movie. If you've seen it, down in the comments below. Like, subscribe, ding the bell, rate us on your podcast app, 5 stars. All those things do help. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We'll see you next time. Keep watching science fiction and computer ad salsa.